All right. So since um, 15 minutes of our time has actually been preoccupied, let me go ahead and get started with what tonight's topic is about. It's something that I feel, again, needs to be covered more than what it is in our industry, just because of a lot of the issues that is continuously, or I should say, violations that are continuously happening around this topic. And so, again, the more we can actually share this information, as well as just again support one another, and just make sure that um, notaries can be accounted for, because we are our support system. But when we see that there is a problem or an error a notary is making, you have the right and actually the obligation to bring it to their attention. Now, whether or not they adhere to what you're saying is their decision. However, if we do our due diligence to point out a problem, that is a violation. It is, again, part of our responsibility as a public official of the state to do so, and to also report that individual if we see that they are intentionally or don't care when it comes to what they are doing, because at the end of the day, they are now causing possible harm to others when it comes to performing notarizations. And if they choose to put themselves at risk of having the Secretary of State Notary Enforcement Division come for them to actually um, make sure that they're in compliance, then again, that is something they need to deal with. But we need to stop a lot of the issues when we actually identify the problem, especially when it comes to what we have the ability to do. Okay, so that's important. I know that there's a lot of people who say they don't believe in quote unquote snitching. This is not it. Okay. We are law abiding people when it comes to our position. And the only way we can stop those that are bad actors in that regard is by making sure we do our best to remove them. And that is speaking up and making sure we still are protecting those that are receiving services from notaries, because again, we will get a bad reputation if we do not stand firm on truths and what the law says that we should be doing, because you're going to have customers eventually complaining and not trusting notaries just because they have been wronged in some way. And so again, the more that we can do, the less it will be happening. Okay, so it's that important. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, so we're going to go over the UPS trap, why your notary application might be legally void. And so again, it's like, okay, how is that possible? It can happen. So stop. Don't sign three pre-printed errors that could kill your commission. So how to read a notarial certificate, spotting pre-printed errors. Again, we come across different documents all the time, so it's good for you to identify what the things we are able to control and how we can actually make sure we're protecting, again, anyone who we're serving when it comes to what we can notarize. So when it comes to the notary, we are the gatekeeper. We are a government official, not just a witness. Pre-printed certificates are often wrong, out of state wording. So again, pay attention to it, every document that comes across you before you notarize anything. Compliance citation, you can go to North Carolina General Statutes 10B 2, when it covers the purpose and is to maintain high standards of trust. And so if you go into your North Carolina Notary Manual, which I hope you all have access to, you can go on page 93. Again, this is information that will have to be updated once we have our new publication sometime in April. They said April the 15th, but again, we will see once we do actually have access to it. Okay. Spotting the venue trap. So when it comes to what you want to pay attention to, Never ignore a pre-filled venue if it doesn't match your current location. That is really, really important. To fix it, you want to line through, initial, and write the correct North Carolina county. Because again, when it comes to the notarial certificate, we have autonomy to correct anything that needs to be corrected to make sure everything is properly written the way it's supposed to, so it can actually be in compliance with exactly what the notarial certificate should say. You have your venue, you have the paragraph of who was personally appearing before you. Then you have the area of today's date that must be written for today's date, the area for your signature, and sometimes you may see the commission expiration date for you to actually enter, or it may not be there at all, but part of the notary certificate, it is included. So if you do not see the commission expiration date written out, you need to remember to put it there yourself. Now, if your stamp seal has your commission expiration date on it, then you're covered in all areas. Okay. And so again, you just want to make sure that all of those things are identified on the notarial certificates every single time one is presented for you, or I should say documents are presented to you that a person wants notarized. When it comes to acknowledgments versus a jurat, the legal weight. So when it comes to an acknowledgement, the signer confirms they sign voluntarily. You can refer to North Carolina General Statutes 10B 3, paragraph 1. When it comes to a jurat, signer swears or affirms the truth of the contents. And again, this can be found in North Carolina General Statutes 10B3, paragraph 28. The why. In court, a jurat is a sworn testimony. An acknowledgement is merely an admission of signing. Again, those are the things that you want to always remember. I know that new notaries are oftentimes confusing themselves with what a notarial certificate or the difference is. I encourage you guys to always go to your notary manual and just take the time to start reviewing all the information that is there. Okay, a lot of times when it comes to any of your questions that you may have, it's usually actually in the book. And if it's not, then again, it's something that I can try to help you navigate to locate it in the general statutes or the administrative code, because again, the more you can actually identify where to find the information, the better prepared you are for the real world when you have different documents that come before you, that you should be able to recognize what you need to identify before notarizing anything. So again, the basics is understanding your notarial certificates. That is again the section of a document that we actually have the power to do what we need to do, and no one else need to be touching that area at all. Okay, so again, that is something that you can actually just be reassured about when it comes to any document that needs to be notarized. So when it comes to case study, the UPS notary application mistake, I have shared with you guys exactly what has happened to me more than once, and it came across this week from another notary bringing it to my attention. It was in a different state, but it still applies. Where UPS is the number one um, store that has notaries that unfortunately they are part of retail, they don't seem to apply the laws to what they do in these establishments. And that is a dangerous situation to be as a notary working for a UPS store and deciding to follow what their manager or the owner of the UPS store is telling them to do versus what they should have learned in the class that gives them the obligation of knowing what they should be doing, as well as the oath that they took before coming into this position as a public official. All of those things matter. So again, any notary that's not taking this to heart is putting, again, the people that they're serving in jeopardy when they're not doing their due diligence. So when it comes to many retail notaries, they skip the oath when notarizing a fellow notary's application. Once again, that is a huge problem. The danger, a jurat requires a verbal oath. There is no playing around that, okay? And no notary, or I should say, no oath equals no notarization. That is how it is read in the law. If a person has not administered an oath or an affirmation to someone, and there's a jurat that's very clear, it's not an acknowledgement on that document, and they just go through their steps as if it was an acknowledgement, it's as if there was a void. So that is why it's important that when we are having our application notarized by a UPS notary or a person that is a notary working for the UPS store, we need to stop and say, hey, I know that, again, I'm a notary and I'm relying on you to actually help me by doing your due diligence by swearing me under oath or affirmation. I prefer to be sworn under oath, but you need to actually administer that to me based on the fact that you are the notary that for me before you notarize be validated. And they are probably going to look at you like a deer in headlights. And when that happens, that again is a big concern. And that this means they need additional training, okay? Because again, we don't know exactly what their history is when it came to the class they took before they started working for the UPS store. Again, there's a lot of things that we are not aware of in situations like this. However, what we do need to make sure is that they are going to do things properly when we can identify it, especially when it's going to affect our commission or lack of when that is not done properly. Okay. So, again, the risk an avoided application or a voided application and potential commission revocation. So, our application can be voided because the oath was not administered in that situation. And then the notary themselves, their commission can be revoked. And again, that is completely their issue, not ours, but we need to make sure we point that out so we can actually not have to worry about this interfering with our recommissioning or becoming commissioned in the first place. And this is for both being a commission notary and becoming an electronic notary also. And we want to refer to North Carolina General Statutes 10B 60 when it comes to where that information can be found. So as a reminder of fees and identifications, again, our max amount of fees that we can charge for every notarial act is going to be $10 per signature. And you can refer to North Carolina General Statutes 10B 31. And then when it comes to identification, it must be current and have a photo, okay, as well as a physical description. That's why when it comes to your state issued ID, whether it's a driver's license, a actual an ID card, and a learner's permit, all of those follow exactly what is required when it comes to a photo ID, as well as the physical description of the person. And then when it comes to a passport, it's a federal ID. So those are the main identifications that will come across until you deal with physical people of a credible witness situation or you personally knowing them. So this is again one of the things that we have to understand and remember how to properly identify someone, and they better be in front of you where you can actually touch them. Okay, if they're not, that again is a no-no. So we just got to make sure that we're doing everything by the book based on exactly what the law says, and we have no excuses for not following what the law has told us that we of what we need to do, how we need to do it. Once we swear that oath of serving and protecting others against fraud and forgery. Again, that's part of our responsibility. So, for those of you that have not um, done a lot of notarizations and may want to get more versed in how to do one in real time as exercises in a class setting. That's just something that I do here in North Carolina. I travel this year instead of me doing a lot of things in Charlotte. I am anchoring my 2-day Notary Basics Accelerated class in Greensboro. Um, that will be coming up in next month, April the 17th and 18th. Fayetteville is a new location that I'll be traveling to this week. I will be having it this Friday and Saturday. We have 10 seats filled. There is space for more notaries if you're in the Cumberland County area and you're wanting to take advantage of this opportunity, because I will not be going back to Fayetteville this year. This is my first time going to that location, as I'll be traveling to Asheville as well as Morehead City. And then I'll be circling back to Charlotte at the end of the year, where I will actually, again, finalize the year end here. So the goal is to help you be armed with the right information on how to execute what it is that only a notary can do. You'll be partnered with another notary so that you can actually, again, get the exercise on both ways, being the principal signer as well as the notary. You will have a 200-page notebook that will go over 16, or I should say over 16 documents that we normally run into through our notary journey. So this can help, again, for you to have a reference when someone has a certificate of title that needs to be notarized. You can refer to your what the Deonica call it, the notary Bible. So that is something that you can actually, again, have access to for so many different documents that, again, we actually come across. We also will be covering how to notarize estate planning documents. And for those that are interested in becoming a signing agent, there's going to be two exercises that's going to actually introduce to you a loan modification as well as a deed. So again, when it comes to how these things can actually help you, it gives you a little bit more insight on what to prepare for, and to actually mindfully know if you want to do all the different things that we have the ability to do. So again, it can definitely help prepare you for success. It's up to you to do what you do with the information given. Okay, so you have to make the actual steps to do exactly what is necessary. So again, that is something. One of a few trainings that I do. This is considered a workshop because it's very interactive, and I've had a lot of notaries with high successes when they do the work as far as learning, taking the time to study, and then putting forth the actionable steps. I don't have a problem with assisting you along the way, because that is part of who I believe I should be when it comes to training anything, so that you can actually know that you have someone to support you along the way. So I want to make sure that we are able to circle back to our topic of how to properly correct um, any errors that needs to be corrected on a notarial certificate. And I know quite few of you have already seen that along your journey. So please share either a question or a comment of letting others know exactly how that was for you and the situation when it came to how you had to make those corrections. So the raised hand is above, so you can actually go to it and you can actually select the raised hand if you want to speak, so that we can actually make sure everybody get a chance to actually share what they want to actually talk about or ask the question.
Tina in the Q&A says, so as long as a date is on your stamp, you do not need to write the commission expiration date in the notarial certificate.
If it actually puts it on the certificate, they still want you to write it in, but it's not something you're going to forget, thankfully, if it's not there on that particular document, since not all documents have the expiration date area for you. You will have to usually write it in if you don't have it on your stamp. But yes, you're covered on both ways.
Okay, so it does have to be written in, even if it's
If
on
it's
your
on the
stamp.
certificate, yeah, if it's on the certificate, you still write it in.
No, I mean, if it's not on the certificate, but it's on your stamp, do
In
you
that case,
still
no, you
have
don't
to
have to
write
write
it
it in.
in?
No,
Okay.
ma'am. So that again helps those of you that may have it already pre-printed, where you don't forget. Now, the only thing is you do have to get a new stamp every time you actually recommission, because that date will be dead, and you want to make sure that you have no issues with being commissioned active and not having the wrong date showing your expiration. So we don't want to have to worry about that being a red flag for someone's documents because you forgot that you haven't updated your stamp. So please do make sure you remind yourself of what you might need to do when recommissioning if that pertains to you. Renee, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I did a signing yesterday, and I specifically asked one of the signers, I gave them instructions. I said, please sign the documents exactly as it's written underneath the signature line. I showed both the husband and the wife. The husband was sitting right next to me, and I would give him the paperwork first. He would pass it on to his wife, and then she would just kind of, pass it on to me or flip it over or something. So it wasn't until, and this is my error, I think I should have looked at each page after they both signed instead of kind of waiting to the end when I saw that she did not follow my instructions. Instead of putting Jada C. Snodgrass, she put J.C. Snodgrass. So she had to go back and cross out every single signature, initial it, and sign it correctly. I was pissed because I told her, and I pointed to the line. I said, Thomas, whatever his middle name was, Snodgrass, and then I pointed to her page and said, Jada C. Snodgrass. People
But
don't
see,
listen. But that
but
was
this is the reality of what that is. Okay, our job, okay, as a notary, we're supposed to be witnessing their signature.
Yep.
If we're not witnessing their signature when they're signing, then we won't catch that error. So we cannot rely on them to remember, especially if that's not how they generally sign their names. We have to be responsible to make sure every time that they are about to sign their name, we remind them how their name needs to be signed. That is part of being a signing agent and what we're responsible of doing in that setting. So yes, it can be very frustrating when they're not going to listen, but the more you do this, the more you realize that is part of how most people are going to retain information very, very second per second unless you remind them every time. So you're going to have to take on that again. Prepare yourself for every signing to be almost the same, and just prepare yourself to actually repeat this every time they're needing to sign all of the documents. Now, if you had a second copy, you could have swapped it out with exactly what was an error was made and swap it out. So that way she could just re-sign it the way it should be signed. And it would not be obvious that there were errors throughout all of the pages that were actually submitted. So that is one of the things that can be done in the future. But just know that's part of the process, unfortunately, that we do have to talk to signers as if they are teenagers or preteens.
Children. And I did have another copy because their copy was sitting right there, and I didn't even think to switch them out.
And again, this is just a teachable moment. Just again, give yourself grace. If they didn't kick it back, then you're fine. But this is an alternative for future, for future situations that will occur. It's going to be the same situation or similar, so that you can actually know exactly how to take care of any issues because we're problem solvers. So again, we will make sure we handle that in the best way possible because again, the people that we're serving, they're used to doing things one way. We're just there for that moment, and this is a big situation for them. So we are going to just again walk them through every single page.
So, Belinda, in this scenario, would it be okay when you're first explaining to them how you want their signature to be? And Renee was saying instead of her the wife passing the paper back to her, she would turn it upside down on the table. Can you say, once you sign it, can you hand it back to me? And at that point, you can check like from the very first page to make sure they are signing it correctly.
That's probably what I should have done. I took a couple of her pages. I would glance at it. It was my oversight. I
Okay.
knew
So,
better.
so we
I
can
just-
do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
So
we
I mean,
should.
it's a lot of teachers and things in my family, so I'm kind of like, you know.
you'll be a teacher during that time frame, honey. Yes, ma'am. So
Oh, okay.
the way,
Okay.
so this is the thing, you're in charge, okay? As a signing agent, notarizing these documents, it is our responsibility to make sure that we do communicate, make it very clear to the principal signers what is expected. I normally sit them one on the left side of me, the other one on the right,
Mhm.
unless I am going to be across from them and they're both left and right in front of me where I can still see them sign. So that way, again, I can control the narrative. When I give it to the husband, he will sign his and then pass it to the wife. I'll pause him and make sure that she signs her name the way it needs to be signed because, once again, our responsibility is to identify and witness their signatures, whether it's an
Right.
acknowledgement or a jurat. That is part of the job as a notary public always.
Okay.
And making sure that I take the document back, flip it, and then go to the next page. Now, yes, it's going to be time consuming, but guess what? It's part of the job. So you're just going to have to again prepare. And once they can get in the rhythm, you will be fine. It's just a matter that we still got to make sure we remind them this is how you need to sign your name.
Mhm.
Tom Richard Jones, Sarah Sue Allen, whatever that might be. So we have to make sure that again, we need to make sure we are hydrated because we're going to be doing a lot of talking. Okay. And your throat may get dry because I know I have to have my cough drops just for those reasons. But
Okay.
it's just a matter of just being properly prepared. That's part of your toolkit too. Okay. So again, this is part of the process.
Cough drops were my toolkit.
So I have a question, Belinda,
Yes,
regarding that.
ma'am.
I know that you get some instructions that signings, I haven't done a lot of them, but that say they can sign their name how they normally sign it, right?
Okay.
So in that instance, could it ever be argued, even though we witnessed them sign it? But you're telling them if a document has Tina Louise Jones Howard,
Mhm.
right? But I don't sign my name like that.
Okay.
I sign my name Tina Jones Howard,
Right.
right? So wouldn't it be some type of discrepancy you might have? Because I know some of them have says it's okay for them to sign their alias names or whatever, right? So just because my full name is spelled out on a particular document, shouldn't I sign my name the way I sign my name, the way it's signed on my ID, you know, how I sign it everywhere else?
So
Because,
good question.
okay.
And this is something that could be argued because by law, in my opinion, and opinions of so many others, when we sign our name based on how our identification identifies our signature, when we are witnessing and trying to make sure this person is who they say they are, we are cross-referencing what we see them sign to the ID. So this is part of their job and a responsibility as a notary public. However, when we're dealing with the instructions because of how we're going to facilitate a closing, okay, for a real estate loan, there are instructions oftentimes saying, well, they need to sign their full name based on how their government name is based on their ID. If the principal signer says, I'm not going to sign my name other than how I normally sign my name, we, the notary public, we're not going to argue with them. Why? Because they're right. They should be able to sign their name the way their names are signed normally. If the title company, the lender, or the attorney says otherwise, once again, they're not going to usually stop that closing from happening if that person is adamant of actually signing their name the way they naturally sign their name. If they're willing to follow the instructions that were given to us that we're sharing with them, and many times it's already shared with them through the third party of what their preference is, again, they can make that decision, but we're not going to actually interfere with that. So yes, they can decide to actually sign the way they normally sign their name, or they can sign it the way that, again, we have been instructed, but it needs to be consistent throughout the entire packet. Okay. So that, again, is no changes over time in the paperwork, because then it will be a question of, is this still the same person? So again, we don't argue. We're there to witness the signature and give them the instructions based on what has been given to us. That is part of our job. And so again, to your answer, or to the answer to your question, we will allow them to do what they prefer to do without the argument, and we will just let the signing service know, or whomever we are actually giving the assignment from, be aware of what occurred. Thank you for that. I see Linda, Monica, and then Angela.
Hey, Miss Belinda, I was going to piggyback on what Miss Tina was talking about, because I know when some people have, like Tina's name, Tina Jones Howard. If it's on her ID, she can take away from that name and sign that name, but you cannot add, like if she want to add Tina and Jones Howard, she can't do it. But she can do Tina Jones or Tina Howard, but you cannot add anything on that document to that name that's not presented on her ID. Because that's how I was always being told.
That's true. Yes, ma'am. Because that then becomes a whole different person. So
Right.
we know there's a lot of common names that are similar, but yes, based on what your ID says, we just want to make sure, based on what Ms. Linda just confirmed, is that they can actually remove a name from what is on the ID when they sign it, but they cannot add to that is not presented on the ID at all, because that becomes a different name altogether. So yes, we want to make sure that the information is clearly defined based on what statute says, and what we are actually identifying when we are witnessing someone's signature. Thank you for that, Linda. And then I forgot who was next, but who did I say? Oh my goodness! So I can see two hands, but there was another
Courtney
person.
or Madison? Was it Courtney? I think someone named Courtney.
No, it wasn't Courtney. And I don't know if they're still here, but if you heard me say your name, please go ahead and speak. Otherwise, Monica would be next, and then Angela. Okay, go ahead, Monica.
Okay. Renee. Miss Renee?
Yes,
She's still
ma'am.
here?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you take an oath?
Oh, what are you talking about? At the secretary at the
Register
UPS?
deeds.
Did you take an oath?
Where?
At the Register of Deeds?
Yeah,
At the UPS?
but not at the UPS.
You just told on yourself. That's how they're gonna find out.
How are they gonna find out? I did it at the
Because
register.
you
I just told
you
gonna tell?
No.
Girl, please.
But
I really don't remember, but I don't remember him.
But
I don't
just like
remember
I
him giving
asked,
me an oath.
just like I asked, that's how they ask you.
Who's gonna ask me?
The Register of Deeds office.
Oh, they didn't ask me. I don't remember them asking me.
Remember, you're always in court at the Register of Deeds office. Be
Okay.
careful and mindful of what you say when you
Yes,
answer
ma'am.
for yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Keep
it
me out
could
of
be
jail.
like, I think like your question is who's gonna know, right? If we didn't provide that person an oath, right? At a signing, maybe. I think like if you have a POA, it could be in one sibling. This is just some scenario I thought of. One sibling is arguing, with the rest of the family that their parent gave them this power of attorney and whatnot, right? And maybe they do know the notary law and they can ask, well, did the notary perform the oath? Like, you know what I'm saying? To make sure he wasn't being forced or whatever to sign this document. So I guess that can come back and bite you if a family wanted to argue that their parent, whatever, grandmother wasn't in their right mind when they signed the document.
And that
Because
can happen very often
yeah,
when
you're
you have a
doing the
disgruntled
oath to
sibling
to
or family member.
yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Just for sake of argument or, invalidating that document, to be sure you perform the oath.
So this is the thing that I want to bring home. If ever you got to go to court, okay, you are now under oath there in court always. This is perjuring yourself if you are not being honest. If you're not recording all of your transactions when it comes to your notarial acts, this is a problem and room for error because you are not a computer that keeps up all of this data that you can just abstract from. That book, though, is what you record in, and you can pull from that information because you wrote it. And if you keep good records, you are going to most likely not have any issues if you go to court and you can identify what all took place during the time that you met with any of your principal signers. That is why recording these transactions is so important, just because our memory, 10 years, that's a lot, okay, to retain when it comes to all of the things we do on a day-to-day basis. So this is how you can take care of making sure you're protecting yourself and the public by recording that information every time you do it. And before we get too far into time, I want to make sure Angela can speak, and then we're going to go back to you, Renee. Okay.
Hey guys, good evening. I'm at work, so I've got my camera off, but it's also off because of Monica Jones checking us all out. She's got the patrol going. I love you, Monica. Look, I just wanted to add something to the idea of going into a signing where people may not already know the expectation of how to be signed. So here's just an idea I came up with. Never done this before, but it'll come up now. If you know it's supposed to be Tina Jones Howard, write it yourself on an index card before you get there, or let them write it before the process of the notarization begins. Have the conversation of what it needs to look like and let it sit in front of them, so everything that they sign, they can just write exactly what that card says, right? It's a thought that they don't have to think, they just do. You point. They already have been addressed about what it needs to look like. You already have the conversation of what, I'm not going to sign that particular way. That's not how I used to. Because any little step you can get out of their mind, it's going to make it run smoother. So that's just a suggestion, to have an index card either already printed, if you already know their name, or let them write it. And so they see it in front of them and they just sign that particular way every time. Then they don't have to think about it. It's already been established what they're going to write. So just an idea. Like I said, never seen it before, but there you go.
But Angela, that's something I do teach in the class. So thank you for that.
Okay, cool.
I call them tent cards.
Okay.
And that's for the dates and for how their name should be signed.
Yeah, awesome.
So thanks for that, because again, that is something that you can definitely benefit from when you are, again, working with signers, when you're doing a lot of loan closings, or I should say facilitating the loan closings in a capacity as a signing agent. Renee, you had another question or a statement?
I do. I think I may be in trouble in that my journal does not give me really any kind of space to list out all the different documents in a mortgage closing. So I would just put loan closing documents or refi documents without listing them out specifically. Now, according to you, I think we have to list every document that we've done and that's signing in our journal.
So if you are keeping up your records, it is going to be best practice to write down all of the documents that you did notarize in that particular package, because there's some acknowledgments, there are some jurats. And if you did the jurat, how did you administer the oath? Was it an oath or an affirmation? All of those are details that are important when it comes to what all took place during that signing.
Wow. So we don't just list acknowledgement and jurat. We list the actual name of the document and then
It
slide
asks you
jurat.
document type. So depending on your journal, what is actually identified, what you need to record, it should have something as far as document type, where you're able to say the list of the type of documents that was notarized.
Don't have enough room in my journal, so I guess I need a new
No,
journal.
so no. Mm-mm. So what you're going to have to do is take up more than one page. So there is enough pages for you to list all the documents. You're just going to have to make it very clear that it belongs to this one entry when you do that. So based on how your space is on your paperwork, and again, if you've got a generic journal that usually run from one page left to page right, then you're going to have to start writing down the list of other areas that would be another entry. But because if that's the type of journal you're using, use what you have access to on that journal. And then when you're completing or in a complete book, then try to find one that's more complementary to what it is that you're doing to make it easier for yourself in the future. But you don't have to stop what you're doing with that particular journal. You're just going to have to, again, navigate to another way of using it to make sure you do have everything recorded.
Yikes.
Okay, so Belinda, Miss Belinda, in this scenario, if it was 4 entries, would you say 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, or 4 of 4, so they can know that that all these entries go together? Or how can you write it in such a way that if somebody's looking at it, they know that these 4 separate entries are one entry?
Well, for me, I love colors. So I can take my highlighter and I can actually put a line where it's going to identify that one date for everything, because it's still based on that person's signature. Okay.
Mhm.
So the date is there, the time is there. If you say from this time to that time, all of that now is accountable for. Again, there's different ways these journals are actually created. And so I created one specifically to help notaries a whole lot more when it comes to exactly what we need to focus on. And I know a lot of those generic journals don't cover a lot of the things that help us in the field when we are actually recording information. So you can make it work for you when you look at what the book says, what we should actually identify when we are recording information. Then we can cover all of those things, even if we have to, again, take up other entries that would
Okay.
be for another signer or another signing. But it can be very defined that this all took place in one setting, because you're going to have the date on there and the time from and to when it comes to your starting point and your ending point of time frame. So
Okay.
all of that would be really kind of self-explanatory when someone reads it, if it's ever audited.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I'm
And
scared.
scared of what? Who's scared of?
Well, we have in a normal loan package, there might be 7 to 10 notarizations and
Mhm.
10 different documents. So I'd have to write out affidavit of understanding indemnity agreement.
Mhm. Or you can
Really?
abbreviate it.
And then the next line, needless to say, I guess you can tell I haven't quite been doing that.
So once again, this is best practice. If you
Yep.
have not done it before, now you can start. Okay. So again, do not knock yourself, give yourself grace. Because again, being that we know in North Carolina, it is an option to record your information, but it's best practice to make sure you do. And if you have not been doing it, and a lot of people are going to follow and understand, oh my goodness, that's me. Well, now again, you can move forward with doing it a better way again in the future. So it is what it is, but we're going to make it better. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And so, Miss Vicky, I know she's very detail oriented. Okay, so come on, Miss Vicky, share your views.
Yeah, you'd love my journal. I am not a loan signing agent. I don't use Belinda's journal, but I use a similar journal. And I did an estate package for Wills for Heroes a few weeks ago, which is 4 documents with 3 of them had witnesses. It took up 7 pages in my journal because I had each document listed and each signature on each document was signed in my journal. So I had 10 signatures in my journal because I had 10 signatures across those 4 documents. Yes, it's a pain. I put together an assembly line that makes it easier for the very first document. And the first time for each person, I fill in all the name and ID information, blah, blah, blah. On the next ones, I mainly just put the document title name and the first name of each person so they'll know where they're going to be signing. And then after the fact, I have to finish filling in the journal. So yes, it's a pain on my journal. It uses up a bunch of pages because each document, like a will is a healthcare power of attorney, because mine only takes a principal and 1 witness, takes 2 journal entries, which is a pain. But yeah, and each one has its own little timestamp, and each one has its own little checkbox for this oath was taken. But yeah, it's a pain. And they probably think I'm absolutely nuts, but if they sign a document 10 times, they sign my journal 10 times. Yeah. Yes, it's
So now,
it's time consuming and a pain.
so the thing is, when it comes to collecting a signature from a principal signer, I feel they only should do it once for all of the documents that I'm notarizing, but identifying that they did, in fact, sign any of those documents that I notarize. So I usually have it a way where it's a diagonal line where they can sign their name that once for all of the documents that they're accounting for, because the goal is to make it easier for them. But we still need to be meticulous when it comes to the notes that we take, because this is our journal that is in our possession. And the documents won't be after we notarize them. So that is the way I do it, because again, it does become more tedious for the signer. They've already having to sign all of these documents already. So I do not want to put them through a punishment situation where they're actually having to do that with the journal itself. So again, one signature actually negates everything when it comes to what we stand for: honesty, trustworthiness, when it comes to recording that information, if ever something is questioned in court. So they're not going to ding us because we did not have a signature for every different document that was presented and notarized. They're not going to do that. They're just looking to make sure that we do have confirmation that person was in front of us by having that as part of the confirmation of a signature that we gathered, that we could only get if we were before them or they were before us during that time of notarization. All right, guys, it's 7:36, and again, I know that we started late, but I appreciate you actually being here. I still see Renee. Did you have another question, or is your hand up from before? Okay. So is there any questions or any more comments that anyone in the audience wants to share?
Belinda, it's Vicky again.
Mm-hmm.
The one advantage of my umpteen signatures is each document has its own separate timestamp. And when I was doing the wills for heroes and also transition life care, the other notaries only took the signature in their journal for the principal and not for the witnesses. And I don't know if that's
Oh,
standard or
wow.
not.
No, I take the witnesses too, because there's no way of me being able to remember who they were if I don't record it. So if we supposed to identify the witnesses, which is part of the process, then we should always treat them as another principal signer when we actually properly identify them as well, because they're now part of the document when they are a witness.
Yeah, the
Miss
paralegals
Linda.
looked at me like I had three heads with all my extra documentation and making them take oath because the paralegal says, "Oh, we don't do oaths anymore." I says, "Huh? It says so."
And that's another person that should be reported to the Secretary of State because they are giving wrong information and they're actually putting someone else legal matters in jeopardy. So no, that's not okay.
And Vicky, do you take an oath for each document or do you do it all up front at one time?
Sort of. I normally use the wording it's in the document as the oath, where it says, "I blah blah swear to that I'm not related blah blah," and they say I do. So yes, I repeat it from that. Now, if I have a husband wife, I might do the two of them together and just add their names in because the wording on a healthcare power of attorney is identical for two documents. So I might do those two together for simplicity's sake. But yeah, I do it one at a time. And yeah, when I do the senior center, it gets to be real tiring because those healthcare power of attorney blurbies is like a whole paragraph long. Blech.
It is.
But yeah, I'm boringly read it off the document.
Okay.
And I get a good laugh and I prove that they're over 18 years of old and they're sitting there with gray hair. Yeah, we all get a good laugh on that one.
Oh goodness. So again, what we do know is Miss Vicky ain't gonna have a problem with confirming what all happened. And I am definitely inspired by the fact that she timestamped every entry when she actually records it. And that's almost like how the electronic notary systems are. Everything is timestamped. So again, she's doing it in human time, and that is impressive. Hey, yes, I love it. All right, guys. So hopefully I am able to see a few of you guys this weekend when I am in Cumberland County for our 2-day Notary Basics Accelerated Workshop. And for those that, again, may be watching our replay, I would love for you guys to, again, subscribe to our channel to help support exactly what it is that other notaries need access to, knowing that they do have a resource and a connection for them as a notary public here in the state of North Carolina. So again, please do subscribe, like, and share this with fellow notaries. And again, I thank you guys for your support, showing up. This is taking your time of your day to actually be here. But of course, it's a win-win. You get information that's of value anytime that you're here. And then, of course, your participation matters because, again, other notaries, fellow notaries are hearing information from a different lens. Okay. And it's not just them getting information or hearing just me talk about something, but we're having conversation, we're collaborating. And this is what matters when it comes to how this whole group and this community works. So thank you guys. And Ms. Linda, you had your hand raised.
Yes, I was trying to hold everybody up. I was going to apologize. I just want to make sure that I guided somebody correctly tonight because that's why I was late. I was trying to help somebody to do a document. It was for a power attorney, but the power attorney certificate said that I certify that this is a true and accurate copy. And they said, well, can I mark through certify? I said, you cannot mark through it. And I said, what you need to do is go to the Secretary of State website and print off the forms for oath and affirmation or acknowledgement, and let the principal choose which one that they want. Or have anybody came across or somebody want to mark something out on a dual power attorney that say certify? So I know we cannot certify a true copy, certify and verify a true copy of a document. Has anybody came across that before?
I know there's some of the wording for a true copy affidavit may be incorrect. So when we identify, because the true copy is for the principal signer to actually say that this is a true copy of whatever that document is that we're notarizing. It has been worded as if though we're taking that statement and saying that we are identifying it be a true copy, which we cannot do. So when documents are presented and it is worded incorrectly, then yes, I will mark that out so anyone who's actually receiving that document will know that that particular certificate is not been acknowledged, there's another one that they do need to pay attention to that is going to be notarized that has the verbiage the way it's supposed to be written.
Because I know
Yeah.
they're supposed to register with the register of deeds because it is a power of attorney.
So again, on the power of attorney itself, if you, the notary, are you have the ability and the power to correct that notarial certificate that's on that power of attorney.
Okay.
That is one of the things that we do have leeway of doing. So
Okay.
instead of having a loose certificate, then the correcting of marking through, making whatever corrections and initialing is something that we can do.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope I didn't confuse anyone. But you guys have access to me if you need to call me, text me, DM me. Again, y'all have access to me. If I'm not able to respond right away, I will get back to you because trust, I have so many other things that I'm working on, but I am definitely going to give you my undivided attention as soon as I can. All right. So I look forward to seeing you guys next week to our next Tuesday Notary Tune-up. And hopefully I'll be seeing you guys at our North Carolina Notary Association conference, our 24th annual conference. That's May 14th through the 16th. So we have a lot of training classes Thursday leading to Friday, and then we'll have the conference all day that Saturday. So again, it's always a pleasure to be able to be among so many other fellow notaries where we can actually talk about so many things that we can relate to and just have a good time in networking and learning more valuable things as a notary public. So look forward to seeing you guys in so many different places in person.
Belinda, I have one quick question. So I've registered for the conference in May. If I want to change a class, is it difficult to do that?
You just need to send an email to membership@ncnotary.org.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. I hope everybody have an amazing evening.
Thank you for closing us out, Jacqueline. All right, you guys have a great evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Learning. Always be learning.
Yes.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.